lead-ins for all of this. One is that I know I've been told that when you make presentations, you want to get at least one idea across that you can take home. So the idea that I hope to get across is you need to bring more play into your life. That's it. You need more play in your life. In your work life, in your personal life. What?
Have you seen anyone assisting for it?
Everyone needs it. You need more of it. I guarantee it. So that's number one. That's what we're going to try to get across. Two is this is a small group. Please, I implore you to interrupt me, to ask questions. If you want to stand up and walk around, because sitting is a pain in the neck, please stand up. Whatever, right? Like, we're friends and family for an hour. So that's number two. Number three is I barely know anything about Agile. Isn't that awesome? Right? So on the, I look at these metrics that are going to come out, like content was valuable. I have no idea if this content's going to be valuable, but you could help me because you guys are the experts. So as I'm going through what I'm talking about, things I want to share, if it connects for you, you can say, hey, this connects for me in an interesting way. We can have a conversation about it because I get to learn too. We all get to learn in this conversation that we're going to have. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story or introduction into play. And it was sparked a little bit by Stacy in prepping for this. And also, I don't know if anyone saw my bio, but there was a point in time where I was president of a company called Klutz.
Juggling for Klutzes.
Juggling for Klutzes is right there. Anyone know Klutz? Yes. Klutz is awesome. Right? I was a total privilege. I got super lucky to be president of Klutz. And we're going to go back to Klutz Juggling. So it's the book that started this company. And the idea, what was going on with the guys who founded the company when they wrote that first book, is they wanted, this is the interesting thing, is they wanted to actually teach people how to read. But they realized that teaching adults, remedial adults reading, if you just gave them a book, that was intimidating. So they wanted to find some other reason, a motivation for reading. So, hey, we like to juggle. They were actually jugglers, and they would teach people juggling. Like, hey, maybe if we write a book and put the balls on the book, that'll inspire people, because they want to learn to juggle, to learn to read. Okay? So the inspiration turned into this whole other company, this company that blew from that. No more reading anymore. It's all about creating and making. It's a very innovative, creative company. But to teach juggling, the very first thing was the drop. Right? That's it. Step one to juggling. You're going to drop the balls. You're going to drop them all the time. Just get used to it. Right? Like, this is as bad as it's going to get for you. This is it. But there's a couple of amazing lessons in learning the drop. Right? Lesson number one is, step one, you have to make it a quick win, a quick hit. And if you're trying to do something ambitious, you can't wake up and go, hey, I can juggle chainsaws. No, you've got to start at the beginning, and you have to sequence it. That's a little bit of like what Luke was talking about. We have to sequence things out, like the propellers and the anchors. Like, oh, great, I can break this complex problem into digestible parts and then sequence myself from the very beginning to then I'm juggling chainsaws. So that's number one. Number two, hey, what is actually the downside to being innovative and creative? If it's this, like that's as bad as it's going to get, maybe I can actually have the courage, the willingness to give this a try. And so entering in and being creative, right, being innovative, it takes, for some people, some level of courage. And you can start off with a little bit of humor and understanding that the downside risk is pretty small to try to embrace and become this creative person or this innovative person or team or organization that you want to be. The other thing is, I accomplished something. I accomplished the drop. Like, it's awesome, right? You're like, hey, accomplish something. Got it, right? We want something accomplished. And another thing I like about this is it demonstrates that you're going to suck at the thing you're about to learn when you start. You're going to be bad at it. And that's great. That's that place of sort of curiosity and willingness to try. Is I can go in this, like, man, I totally can't juggle chainsaws, and I can barely even hold one ball in my hand. But if I keep trying and practicing and persisting, then I can get to this place where I've mastered. And so it's a journey. So play, in part, is a journey. It's a process. It also has results. You do learn to juggle. And it is an amazingly powerful way to learn. It is so powerful, it's essential. There's things that you want to do in your personal life and your business life that if you don't play, you are literally not developing the skills and the abilities to do what you want. Because it's that essential. Have you got at least a little provocation? Yeah? Robbie's nodding. So as long as Robbie's nodding, whatever. That's an organizational framework. What I'm going to talk about for a little while is play turns out to be kind of complicated to define. I wish it was a single point. You're like, aha, that's play. But play, the way I see it, has got 3 different dimensions. And the first dimension, sorry. Here's slides that I got ahead of myself. Let me talk about this for a second. These words, being user-centered, doing top-line growth, being creative, being innovative, design thinking, all these things, you hear them. I imagine you hear them. Right? We need to be strategic, we need to be creative, we need to be innovative, we need to have top-line growth. Like, these types of things, all of it to me is being strategically creative. And when I looked, although I'm not an agile person, I looked at the Agile Manifesto, I see a great parallel to this core concept. It's user-centered. It's being highly strategic. If you understand the needs of the users and you design your solutions, that's being strategic. But it's also demanding, if you do it well, to be creative, to create new solutions that are highly differentiated and valued by the people that you're serving. All that is being strategically creative. So to me, when I think of like a workflow, I think from understanding to innovating to designing to developing to launching to growing the thing you've launched, all of it is strategic creativity or creative strategy. You pick, I don't care. Now moving into play. Play has 3 dimensions. First is as a state of being or state of mind. So Stuart Brown is a buddy of mine. It's not my uncle or my brother. So I'm Matt Brown, Stuart Brown. This is a wonderful quote. I love it because it sets up the right mental construct. It's not play versus work as a state of mind, the way psychologists think about it. It's play versus depression. If I'm depressed, I feel isolated, alone, low capacity, right? Low creativity, all these things. When I'm in play, right, I have a very different orientation to myself and to my community. So it's an invitation to bring play into work. And the way psychologists think about play is if you have a great day at work, you come back and you're like really energized and like, that was an awesome day. It's probably a day that was very playful. It's probably what it felt like. What is play? This is the good stuff. Can you read this from way back in the room? So I'm willing, right? Yeah. So I don't want to read it all. Sorta, a little bit. Yeah. So I'll hit some highlights. Okay. Play is self-motivating. Okay. Self-motivating. Anyone read Drive? Right? Intrinsic motivation. Okay. There's 5 discrete steps into building intrinsic motivation. Play encompasses and captures all of them. And another way to think about it is, way I think of this, I like to play volleyball. Right? It's my sport of choice. Anyone play any sports or right? And then there's exercise, going to the gym. Right? If a friend of mine called me up at 10 o'clock at night and said, "Hey Matt, let's go play volleyball," I'd be like, "Sweet, sign me up, I'm going." If they called at 10 o'clock at night and say, "Hey, you want to go to the gym?" I'd say, "What is wrong with you? Like, don't call me ever again at 10 o'clock asking me to go to the gym," right? Because volleyball, for me, is play. Right? It's deeply intrinsically motivating. Exercise is not intrinsically motivating. It's extrinsically motivating. Right? The reason why you do exercise is because I want to lose weight, I want to be healthier. There's these external reasons, even though they're in your skull, right? There's these that you're doing it. Play. I go play volleyball because I want to. Because I love it for itself. Right? That's what play looks like and how it feels. It's spontaneous, it's fully engaged. Right? you're in the flow, like, right? It's the way Stuart talks about it is you lose track of time. That's what play feels like. Now, this one, satisfying. I had an interesting conversation with a couple of students at Haas Business School. I was lecturing there a couple weeks ago, and they asked me about fun. They're like, I want life, and I want something more fun. How to make it more fun? And I had this weird epiphany. Play is not equivalent to fun. It's not. Who plays Angry Birds? You played Angry Birds? Okay. When you're on the 2, right, you got the 2 stars and you're trying to get the 3 and you do that over and over, it's frustrating. It's so aggravating, right? Like, that's not fun. Like, sometimes I actually want to like chuck the phone. It's not fun. Right? Or when you're learning how to play a sport, or you're learning a new tool or a technique in work. It can be very agitating, very frustrating, very demanding. Okay? And that's a part of play. Right? Play is not all about having fun all the time. Ultimately, that actual emotional element that's consistent is satisfying and it's gratifying. That's how play always is. Right? It's sometimes fun, sometimes it's joyful, but what you can count on is when you have a good day at play or a good play experience, it's satisfying. And that's what happens when you get the 5 stars, right, on Angry Birds. You're like, sweet, I did it. Right? I got the level. And in game theory, that's called a compulsion loop. It's a driving mechanism for you to try again because you want to actually achieve. We all want to achieve. If it's too simple, I call it the Goldilocks principle. It's too simple, it's boring. It's too hard, it's frustrating. So you want to be in the middle. We all want that. As humans, we want to achieve, we want to master. That's a part of the emotional. And it has other things like it has a positive approach to failure. We all heard these terms like fail fast, right? Kind of take appropriate risks. Play has this orientation towards failure is an option, right? Failure, if it is deemed a part of your process, is desired because what you want to do is you want to experiment fast, find out what works, what doesn't work, kill the thing that doesn't work, and put something new in that you can then try again and find out what does work. So it is synonymous and often with experimentation. Right? But it has that orientation. You're oriented towards accepting failure as a part of your process in order to achieve your mastery. Right? Going, again, with the juggling metaphor. I'm going to drop that ball a lot. And then I'm going to drop 2 balls and 3 balls. And then I'm going to drop the bowling pins that I try. You're going to fail, but the only way you can master is moving through failure. And play has this orientation, embracing that and understanding it. All right. Come on, any questions? Anything. Or that's lousy, I don't get it, give me anything. Because I'll just keep barreling along and talking.
So,
Please, all right, I got one.
I have a teenage son who loves video games, right? So he also loves strategy and playing. I feel like he's always strategizing, and I feel like that's part of play.
It is. In certain types of play, specifically, strategy is essential to the play experience. So, strategy games being the most. Stratego, Risk, chess, right? Anything that is overtly strategic. Almost every game, whether it's sports or board game, sports will use strategy, and therefore gameplay and that type of play is incredibly powerful at developing your strategic skills. And we'll talk a little bit about the taxonomy of information and what we're learning. There are also in games of chance where there is no skill, right? Candyland, Chutes and Ladders. It turns out, for a lot of people, that's a very frustrating experience. Right? Like, I'm at 99 and I got on the slide and I'm back down to 7. You're like, ah! Right? And lots of children get very angry because they can actually experience how that is unfair. It feels unfair. So,
what's the value there? I mean, that's an actual value lesson.
There's 2 thoughts behind, well, actually 3. I have a bunch of friends who think Chutes and Ladders should be shot and burned and never played again. So there's a bunch of game designers who think that. Then there's educators who, and I would probably put myself more in this camp, that learning to have a positive approach to failure, right? Learning to have resilience around setbacks is very, very important to having a successful life in the future. It's part of executive functioning skills is what they call it. So having Chutes and Ladders at the appropriate time and space, be able to help children learn that experience and get accustomed to that, building that skill and that ability, super valuable. The third is that that children at a young age don't have the capacity to do strategy. You can't think strategically until you're around 5.5 to 6 years old. So this gets you into gameplay mechanics before you are able to layer in more complex content into the game. So it's an introduction into the whole concept of gameplay. So pick any of those three that you like, but those are the different perspectives.
I know the response, I just wanted to be able for everybody to understand that that actually has an intended purpose for kids to be able to learn how to accept either failure and what it means to lose with gracefulness. It also teaches them how to be resilient and be able to have a positive attitude and move forward, whether they had got sent all the way back. It's teaching kids that, and adults for that matter, because that game can be played with adults, how to handle and deal with disappointment and how to manage through and take the next steps towards a more positive result. And so that game actually has a high value to it, so those people who like to dunk it need to go back and play it themselves.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. The lesson from there that we might be able to correlate to something like agile and facilitation, okay, is that in order for a child to have a successful experience with that, the adult has to model the appropriate behavior.
Not always easy.
Not always easy, right?
I used to get excited when you went down the slide. That was like the fun part.
And that could be the fun part, okay?
That was the fun part.
And your point is, and the interesting about Chutes and Ladders, that one, is that it wasn't intended to do that. We now value it for that, but that's not what the designers intended. Any other questions? I thought I saw another hand up.
Yeah, so I saw the play is not about boring, one of the things.
Yes.
And what if you have seen somebody is like playing but feel bored?
I mean, if you're bored watching them play, or you're bored playing.
Bored playing,
Yeah.
but still want to play.
There's therapy for that.
I've never experienced that before, because the behavior you would typically see when someone is bored, okay, then we would see them stepping away from the play experience. Like, whatever, I'm playing Scrabble, and I'm like, ugh. Like my wife, who actually hates Scrabble, she's like, this is boring, see you later, I'm out of here. Okay? So boring as a experience that someone has, emotional experience, will result in the behavior of walking away from the play experience.
Right, but is there like influence, say for example in our context, the manager's influence in that they should continue to play. However, employees so apathy that
You're bringing up an interesting point, so, or a couple interesting points for me. One is all of work, there's lots of time at work that's boring, okay? Like, it can't always be playful. I mean, there's sometimes you just have to kind of like sit down and go through the grind, and that's just life. We volunteer to embark on these professions or this work that we do, that for me, I'm always looking for this balance between 51% good and 49% bad. I'm not looking for 100% awesome and 0 bad. It's like, I just want to be a little more on the favor side of like, this is playful, energizing, good, fulfilling, and that builds a momentum and a reservoir for me to get through the boring crap. But if you flip it over, if it's 51% boring, you lose people. You lose engagement, people leave their jobs, they opt out of engagements, they don't give their best effort. So it's actually in this middle zone where you're trying to adjust and adapt, right? Your management, your leadership, your tools, your processes that make the whole experience from a psychological standpoint a little more playful, and you're balancing in that favor. Then you'll be able to do things like have people feel more motivated, more engaged, right? More willing to try, bring their best effort at something. Good? More? All right. So step 2, second way to think about play as a essential way in which we learn and we create. So Matt likes taxonomies, so that's one of my either good or bad, but I like them because I need mental models. So I'm going to try and share a couple mental models with you guys. So first is how we learn. How we learn. What are the methodologies? There are only 3. The entire arena of how we learn. There's instruction, there's play, and there's experience. And I don't think I have these slides, but I could. What time do we have? Okay, I can do this. So for instruction, I'm doing a little bit of that here, but imagine we have to all go back to when we were like 6 years old. Okay, and I'm the teacher, and we're talking about dinosaurs, and I hold a picture of a T-Rex, and I say it out loud, and everyone's like, T-Rex! And I'm like, come on, say it with me, and I spell it, and I say it's a carnivore. I'm instructing, right? This is the person with the wizard at the front of the room, imparting knowledge, right, to these supple minds that want to learn. That's instruction. Right? Experience is, remember the time when we all got to go to the Natural History Museum, and you walk in, and there's that gigantic skeleton of a T-Rex? Like, that's it. You don't have to say anything. You are learning so much about what a T-Rex is about just by experiencing it. Okay? But play, what we would do is we would dress up like dinosaurs, or we'd have little dinosaur figures, and we would make up our own stories. Right? We would become dinosaurs. So each type of learning is distinct. They support each other. I mean, if you don't instruct kids and tell them at least a bit like what is a T-Rex and a carnivore, they can't know anything. Right? So they support each other. But we do this for our children, and I experience in business that we do this to ourselves. We disproportionately put our energy at instruction. Okay? We disproportionately go here. And we're going to talk about why that ain't so good, for sure. So how we learn, then what do we learn? So the taxonomy of what we learn is information or data, skills, and capabilities. Right? Everyone knows information is, right? And information and data is static. It's static. The capital of California is Sacramento. That's it. It's static. You can use data, you can use your skills to manipulate data, but the data itself is static. Right? And data, in the context of business, is becoming less distinct, less valuable from a competitive set. Okay? Your ability to manipulate data, that has value, but the data itself, everyone has access to more and more data every day. So how is that really a competitive advantage? 2 is you have skills. I can use a keyboard. That's a highly fungible skill. I can do lots of stuff with a keyboard. But juggling, there's not many other ways I can sort of apply juggling, right? The physical capabilities. It's not very fungible or transferable. Capabilities are the foundation of everything that we're learning. And these things are completely transferable to building your skills, using your skills in novel ways, and taking advantage of data and information. This is the stuff that I like, is the capabilities, and I'll talk a little bit about them. So they run on a spectrum, and I'll read a couple to you guys in the back. Explore and discover. These are the simplest type of capabilities we have. We are born with them. Okay? They move through this. Classify / compare. Then remember, predict, plan, organize, try. Then you move on to things like experiment, demonstrate mastery, imagine, and create. My hypothesis is that most adults in their work life spend their time here. Most of your time. Predict, let me remember stuff, let me predict, let me make my plan, let me organize my materials, let me execute my plan, and let's recycle that over and over and over. Okay? But the disproportionate wealth that companies and individuals and teams can make is by actually being able to explore. Because exploring means the ability to understand, right? Understand the unmet needs, the problems you're trying to solve, and your ability to imagine and create the solutions. This is where the wealth is, this is where the success is, and this is where the fun is, right? If play is not fun, for most people, this stuff is the more playful. And play and experience are the only ways that you can get good at it. You cannot be instructed at all and get good at exploration, discovery, imagination, and creativity. I could talk all day, we could read every single book there is about imagination and creativity, and not 1 ounce of it is actually making you more imaginative or creative. The only way to do it is to do it. Okay? So these, and another thing, just interesting data point, imagination and creativity are so complex neurologically that you can't even do them until around 4 to 4.5 years old. So I think Ken Robinson, anyone know Sir Ken Robinson? Check out his TED Talk. It's one of the top 3 TED Talks of all time, Sir Ken Robinson. Okay? And what he talks about is that creativity is the distinguishing feature of humanity. It is the most evolved expression of us as human beings. It's our ability to imagine something new and create it. I want to inspire us to make more of this happen. I want it for all of you, I want it for me, right? In our work lives. How do we imagine something new and create it, make it happen? And definitely in the world of software development, if we're doing Agile, that's our end game. The end game is I'm creating something of value. Something of value. Hopefully something of immense, wonderful impact and value.
Could you repeat that talk again?
Yeah, Sir Ken Robinson. He's awesome. Thank goodness you haven't seen him. I sound okay for now. As soon as you see him, you're like, oh my God, that Matt was so boring. I'm saying Ken Robinson here. But he's amazing. So, as a punctuation, play provides both the practice as I'm playing and the production, meaning I've created something. So back to the juggling. Right? As I'm learning to juggle, okay, I actually produce the ability to juggle, but below that, I'm developing capabilities. Right? Persistence. If you get good at juggling, you've gone through a lot of mistakes and you've had to persist. And you had to actually do organizing and comparing. There's lots of stuff going on, but persistence is a big one. And if you get really good at juggling, you start imagining new ways to juggle that no one's ever seen before. And you create them. You actually have to go back to the beginning. You have to explore. Can I actually throw 5 balls in backwards? I have to explore it. I have to discover if I can do it. And you go through that whole set of capabilities. So the juggling itself is this practice. You're getting better. And why that's important is because as you build up those capabilities, whenever you layer in a new skill, okay, I can use a pen, I can use a violin, right? Any skill and any material, you can draw on the capability. So if I am very creative with a violin and I learn how to use a paintbrush, I can access all that creativity and apply it with this new skill and this new tool. That's why these things to me are the most important, because it's what makes us do amazing things, right? Are these capabilities. The third is play as a set of behaviors. There are 9 different types of play. Does anyone want to actually interrupt me? Ask questions? No? No? Rocky, someone could. You said no, but yes.
Well, it's a little bit off topic, but you were saying.
I'm willing to go off in a
Okay.
total, take me off topic.
Like that, all humans have those abilities to explore.
You're born with it.
Right. I was just wondering if you could say something really quick about how we're not the only animals that play.
Oh, yeah, great point. There's a lot of, there's some interesting research done by looking at many different species of animals. It started, I think, with cubs and lions, and then over in the bear community, and this idea that play is this is a lot of Stewart's work, is a biologically driven set of behaviors. And in the animal kingdom, beyond us as animals, one of its dominant features is learning how to behave as young children in a way that will make you successful as an adult. So when you see like lion cubs or bear cubs going after each other and play fighting, they are preparing themselves ultimately to be able to hunt down their prey and be successful at it. So it's the play that gives them the practice and the production, I think, that ultimately allows them to succeed. Just the way we would do in trying to I don't know, learn basketball or baseball. We practice, 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 and then we go on the field and play the game. Right? So that is what's happening at one example of how play is exhibited throughout the animal kingdom.
So it's for learning, but I've also heard that the most intelligent mammals play the most. Dolphins, humans.
Yeah. Yes. Well, there's also some research around its ability to create social communities and social networks. And then with inside of that, if you look at the work that Dr. Keltner and others up at Cal Berkeley are doing is around positive emotions and why we have them. And my layman's version of this is many, many generations ago, if you weren't in a tribe, you were food. Right? We got saber-toothed tigers going all around, and look at us. We don't have much hair. We're not very strong. We're not very fast, but we got big brains, right? So we evolved through play. Play helped us evolve these highly complex emotional skills. So emotions are skills, right? Just like there's physical skills, cognitive skills, emotions are emotional skills. And we use play to develop them, transfer them from older generation to younger generation in order to facilitate, okay, positive connections amongst our tribes and either altruism or fear, competition with external tribes. So that's another much more complex, and we could really go down on a tangent on that. But yes, play is highly interwoven into how we develop our emotional skills and bond us together in communities. They also talk, and we all, actually this is going on right now, there's some interesting research around rough and tumble play and the downside of us in our current culture of diminishing rough and tumble play for young children. Because it's through rough and tumble play where you're like wrestling and all stuff, where you learn boundaries. Right? And because if you push someone too hard, animals do this very well. Okay? If one animal attacks the other one too hard, if they're in friendly fight, the other one's like, ah, like that, and then one backs off, and they learn their boundaries. And this is both a physical socialization, but it's also an emotional socialization about where is it okay to push and where am I safe, and where can we actually collaborate and strengthen each other up through play.
So you're talking about my scrum team now?
Yeah, I might be. I might be. Yeah.
Because in the animal world, it seems like there are instances where they're playing and it might not really have any benefit. Like
Yeah.
penguins get in line and they're very serious, and then all just to go down a slide and get back in that line.
Like otters, yeah. Because I would equate that into, because I said earlier, play can be very, it can be very joyful. And that can be a motivator. It's joyful, it feels good. And we're going to talk about sensory play in a minute, because this is one of my favorite. But yes, that can be a drive. Go ahead.
Aren't you mentioned competition?
Yeah.
As an example, you can get boys to do anything if you make a game. Even the most boring thing. But if I get to beat you, they'll play.
Yeah.
And does competition...
Well, I mean, I hear the gender, yeah, so the gender stereotyping of that, but beyond that, there's competition.
Girls can too. My friend who has 2 girls, he said, "Oh no, girls will do it too."
Sure. We have competition, we have collaboration, we've got cooperation, we have altruism, and we have different ways in which we interact and engage with each other, and so. If the question is competition a part of play? Is it something that's permissible and acceptable? Is that kind of question, or?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, like you were talking about boring games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they might not play it if it's boring, but if I can compete against my brother, then they would play.
Right. So that might be a way of turning an activity into a game, and the people who are playing that enjoy it. but that again is, if you remember Luke's talk, that is the voluntary participation of the players. Right? Setting up those rules. Right? Now we're going to compete. There may be other players like, I don't want to compete. That's not how I want to engage in this. And when you set up competition, you might be shifting from one play type, which could be art play or game or role play, and you're turning it into a game. And it's a different type of play. And again, some people might be like, yes, it's more motivating. I want to play a game. Other people might say, no, I don't want to play a game. I actually am just happy over here just building my Lego blocks. I don't want to have a competition about who can make the highest set of Lego blocks. Go ahead.
I just kind of want to bring it back to business for a minute. I'm going through a leadership program right now, and one of the things that's identified for me is to be more playful.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that that's the same thing, that those two things are synonymous, that being playful is the same as play in your definition.
Yeah.
Okay. The environment that I'm running into, though, is very left-brained. Okay? So if you're going to discuss this later, I'm curious just about how it works in a business environment when you want to bring playfulness in and you've got a bunch of guys whipping out calculators and Excel spreadsheets to calculate the metrics of the improvement of the team's performance, after this game.
I'll give you two ideas to try. One is, we go back there. So back to this. Okay. I'll tell you a quick little story. When I became president of Klutz, it was in a turnaround situation. Okay? And I walked in the door and I started to interview by taking out to lunch each employee. And the most extreme and the most sad was a colleague, her name's Anne, she was the second employee ever at Klutz, meaning she had worked there at that point for 35 years, right, who said that the culture and her experience is grim. It's grim. Right? That was terrible. Right? So we're starting at grim and we're trying to get to good, And what I took from that, what I needed to do is when I was literally driving to work, and I parked my car, and I got through the traffic and all the headaches and all the emails I saw before I got in the car. So I got a lot of noise in my head, okay? And I might be walking into a shitstorm. Just be frank, I could be walking into a bad situation. I mean, the days start off bad. But before I walked in the door, okay, I would stop myself, and I'd be like, okay, I have got to that's what's behind me, right? I'm here, I'm going to get present, I'm going to get grounded, take a couple deep breaths, I really would have, okay? And I'm going to go in with a playful attitude. I just had to take it on for myself and bring it out into that community. And then I would moderate, okay? I had to react to the folks I'm with, because if everyone's really feeling crappy, I can't be like, hey, this is the greatest day ever! Right? You can't do that. You have to kind of come close to them, right? But bring a little more playfulness than they have. So you're encouraging, you're bringing them along. And so that was one. And what you can do with it, so that's like a meta, come in with play, or you can pick any one of these things. Like today, I'm going to focus on being a little more creative, right? And I'm going to bring that into work today. So that's that kind of setting the clarity and intention and bringing that in, but making sure you come close to where your colleagues are and not getting far ahead of them. Mm-hmm. That's one sort of idea. The other one, and I think Luke spoke a lot about this, is there are tools and techniques and behaviors that we could bring in to a specific situation that take advantage of play for the benefit of everybody. In order to do that, you always need to have permission. I don't believe in control. I don't believe it exists. I don't. I believe in influence. And is anyone a parent? Who's a parent? Okay. Do you think you're in control of your kids? At all? Seriously, right? I remember my daughter when she was I had this big lesson. I was 6 or 7 years old, and she wanted to go outside. We're down in Mexico, and she wanted to go without a hat, and without anything, and she just wanted to go get burnt like a crisp. I'm like, you'll put a hat on, and you're going to put this on? Whatever. She walks out. I'm out in the balcony looking down, and there she is. No hat, like clothes off, like just with her bathing suit. I'm like, holy crap, I have no control over a 6-year-old, right? We're in influence. We're in influence. So if you want to come in and introduce a new tool, right, a new technique, a new behavior, you have to understand your context. Are you the leader? In which case you can bring people along and you sort of declare what you want to do and test drive it with them. And I've done that. Or you're not the leader. And you have to then go to the leader and say, hey, I got an idea, right? How about, would you mind testing this or trying this out? And I would always frame that as an experiment. Let's try an experiment. Hey, the experiment fails, big deal. Right? There's low downside risk to trying an experiment. There's high risk for having a new system, a new process, a plan. Right? Plans are supposed to succeed. Right? Experiments are supposed to fail and teach you stuff. I like experiments. Right? Let's learn. Plans, no thank you. Okay? Most plans end up on a shelf anyway. And they set up, as I was talking to a friend of mine, he's a creative director at Klutz just this morning. He said, expectations kill everything. Right? It's like, expectations suck. Right? The bad expectations, right? They're too high. Anyway, and we could talk, it would be a different conversation to get into precisely, but there are tools, techniques, and behaviors, but you have to be in a state of influence and find where your influence is to be able to get them acculturated and adopted and used and tried. But I always start with experimentation. Let's try this out. Right? Tell everyone what you're going to do. Please help me. When you ask for please help, oh my God. Okay? You get so much more help when you ask for please help me, okay? Rather than trying to impose.
Oh, I was just thinking that play also introduces risk into the organization, into processes, and people might not be comfortable with play because of all the risk it entails. So,
yes.
Some thoughts about creating more comfort zones.
Right. Hence the experimentation idea, biting off what you can sort of chew. I mean, it all has to be regulated against the situation that you're in. But yes, and for many people, the idea of play can be intimidating. Like, or much more common and worse is it's frivolous. Right? Play is not important. Well, to them I say I'm sorry. You're wrong. To your own peril. Sweet. It's like I feel like it's like Michael Flatley, right? Flatley, like the Irish dancers upstairs. It's awesome. All right, so you haven't even given me the 5-minute warning, so that's good.
Oh, you got 15.
Sweet. Let me try this. The behavior. So there's 9 different types. Now, play and experiential learning. Actually, the Venn diagram is very overlapped. They're very, very similar. The thing that really distinguishes play is that it's subject to being systematized. And so you understand, you can break down play into its scope and sequence and build up mastery from beginning to end. Experience is less susceptible to that level of scrutiny and process development. The other thing about play, as I'll show you as I'm talking about this, is that all these play types can be smashed together. Right? So I'm presenting something that's kind of a taxonomy, but to understand you can mix and match. They're like ingredients for making a wonderful meal, and you can smash them together. Sensory play is the one I'm most interested in and sparked by right now. Sensory play is play done for its sensory effect. Swinging on a swing. Right? You remember that feeling? Like swinging on a swing. Whereas getting on a roller coaster. That's it. You're doing it primarily for how it makes you feel. Well, it turns out, I was talking with a buddy professor at Stanford, and I was saying I had this epiphany for myself. Who's had a big idea in the shower? Right? That aha moment? Yeah, right. That's sensory play. Right? And I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, why am I having this? Or I also have aha moments when I'm driving, and I've been driving for like a couple hours, and I'm like, whoa! Like all of a sudden, like I get clarity and I get aha. And then I noticed my company, 3 companies ago, I had this one employee, whenever he was like just like agitated, he would get up and take a walk. He had to get outside and take a walk. All of that is sensory play. And my buddy at Stanford said, yeah, we have a term for that called interoception. And what is being studied and what I think is going on is that sensory play for adults is a way for us to get out of our skull and kind of reconnect it back into our intuition, into our synthesis, to our wisdom. And you can use it on purpose. If you see that, you're like, oh, and I try to use it now. I did this just the other day. I was totally stressed out. Right? I was sort of cognitively jammed. I couldn't break through. And I backed away from the computer, and I did my sensory play, which was not taking a shower. I have this little brush off kind of play activity that I do. And I came back, I'm like, good. I'm ready, and I'm clear, and I actually had a little breakthrough. But I share this with you because you may do this subconsciously already, but to bring it up consciously. So when you're in those moments where you've got that cognitive logjam, you can't break through, and it's writer's block or whatever it is, find your sensory play. Find your place to go, oh, I'm going to go do something that gets me back down out of my brain into my intuition and into my wisdom. It's a very, very powerful tool. I don't know what it is for you, but we all can't go take showers in the middle of the day. Right? But this is the one that I particularly love. Construction play, right? Building. The why Watson and Crick is on here, and this is the power. This is a power of play. As these guys are trying to discover and understand, not just discover, but discover and understand DNA, they needed to make it. Right? They needed to make it. Not look at it, not just look at it, not just model it right on their computers that they had or draw it. They had to make it. And by making it, they discovered certain critical features of DNA that they couldn't have learned and discovered otherwise. That is part of the power of play. When you build things, you learn and discover things that you can't get otherwise. Right? I'm sure in your work, how are we prototyping? But are you prototyping with many different dimensions and materials? Right? Do you use paper? Do you use pen and pencils? It's always on a computer. I'm telling you, make stuff tangible when you can. Consider adding that in. It shows you, because we are physical, we are tangible. We think, right? We process through our body. So try making things tangible. It will demonstrate and reveal things to you that you can't get always digitally, right? Virtually. Art play. Art play is the expression of emotions and ideas through art. Okay? It's not coloring maps, right? It's really expressing yourself and your stories and your ideas. There's a great book that I love from Klutz called Drawing for the Artistically Undiscovered. This is, if you want to explore your art play, get that book. And its first thing is it has a pencil with no eraser. Right, because you can't make mistakes. It's your art. It's your story. Like, we're just going to start drawing, and it's all about sort of drawing out your emotions, not about doing like high quality drawings, right? Life stills. This is about you and your stories. It's a wonderful book. Gross motor play, you get it, full body. Manipulative play, yes.
What was the name of the book?
Drawing for the Artistically Undiscovered, which is everybody. I read that, I'm like, I totally am artistic, like undiscovered. I'm no good at it, but I'm definitely undiscovered. Right? Manipulative play, I want to be a magician, that's why that's there. Music play, okay. Interesting, music play starts with humming. Humming, that's how we learn the very first step in music play. Book play. The very first thing you learn in book play is how to hold the book the right orientation and how to turn the pages. I shared this with a group a couple months ago, and this guy raised his hand, and he's like, I gave my child a book, and she tried to swipe the page. Everyone was like, we're all like heartbroken. Right? Oh. I don't know what to say about that, but it was heartbreaking. I just had to share it. Pretend play, role play. Okay? Role play, intensely valuable as a innovation tool and technique. There's things like Remember the Future. You guys know that game? Wonderful game where you project yourself out in the future, looking back on the success that you've had. Okay? When you pretend to be that person, it opens your vision of creativity and opportunity bigger than if you start from here and go, what did we do? Okay? It's a very different cognitive framework. When you do that, you're able to be more creative. Gameplay. I'm guessing there's a bunch of gamers in here. And anyone know the difference? Heard about infinite versus finite games? Infinite, finite? Oh, okay, this is fun. Finite games are games that you know are going to end. There's a lot of sports. Right? Like, I got it dead, it's going to end, that's finite. Infinite games are games that don't want to end, and you don't want them to end. World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Right? That's an infinite game.
Yes, it is. Infinite wallet.
Until you get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we as human beings, we are in an infinite game. We're trying to have our species grow, our planet thrive, so we can continue to be infinite. Our businesses that we create, we want them to be infinite. We don't want them just to like expire after a couple of years and disappear and have to find another job. We want our teams to be infinite, right, to grow, so that we are all participating in business. To me, is an infinite game. And the thing about the infinite games, right, is that people who really get into them, they want to keep them going, and they will change the rules. Change the rules to make the game keep going. That's why I love Foursquare. Foursquare, you know the rule of Foursquare? Come on, you remember playing Foursquare?
I don't remember now.
There's one rule. There's one rule. Okay? Don't let the ball bounce twice. If you do, you're out of the square, someone else comes in, and you move up.
So that's infinite.
But here's what's infinite, is that when some kid becomes the king in space one a bunch of times, you know what the other kids do? They make up a new rule. They're like, hey, you have to do it like clucking like a duck every time, or on one leg, or you have to catch it with the left hand. There's infinite rules for Foursquare. And the context is that every player knows, okay, that anyone else can make a rule, and it just says, and you have to say yes to it. Because if you don't, what happens?
You don't get to
It
play.
becomes a finite game. It's over, right? Because it's boring. Someone said, boring? It is boring to keep losing and have one kid just keep winning. You're like, this sucks, man. I'm taking my ball home. Right? Get me out of this place. So they changed the rules. We started doing this at Klutz, and I know you guys are in different organizations, and who knows what would be permissible. But I went to my team, and we had this conversation, and I said, I want us to be willing to change the rules of our business. I want no rule to be accepted as a constraint of how we're going to behave. Because we all walk in all the time in our work, like we got these rules, we have to abide by the rules. But if you abide by the rules all the time, you may be subject to becoming finite. Right? The way you become infinite is changing the rules. That's a provocation to consider. Okay,
5
that's
minutes.
that.
There's your 5 minutes.
And I'm going to stop. You don't need who cares about gaming, gamification? You probably know all about that. The last thing I'll talk about on the business side, when you distill all that down, why do I think play is important in business? And I got a lot of different reasons, but one reason is to become strategically creative. Okay? So if we can explore and discover, we can be deeply curious. By being deeply curious, we can learn. And by learning, what we do is we uncover the unmet needs. Okay? And the more you do that, and the clearer you get on the need you're trying to solve, the better your work is going to be. Okay? Companies tend to spend too little time here. Right? For time pressures, sometimes it's not like it's hard to put a ROI on it, right? Because we're going to invest money in learning and doing research. Come on, man! Like, just give me the idea and let's start making it. But this is step one. Okay? Learn. Number two, imagine and create. Creativity. Okay? Let's solve Let's come up with the great idea that solves the unmet need. This isn't planned, it's not organized, it's not, we gotta be creative, we gotta come up with the great idea. And then 3, we gotta try and we have to experiment. Because ultimately we need persistence, we need to work our way through from that initial aha. I'll call the curiosity is the aha, I got the problem. The wow is the solution. Like, wow, we now know what we're gonna do. But to make that real, you've gotta persist. Okay? To realize high impact solutions, you have to be able to persist. Play is the best at delivering all this. It's the best. Okay? It's the best. This is a quick story of Make a Mess. We were working with Coca-Cola, and they wanted to invent a new whole beverage platform. If they used their internal process, it would have been a very, very long time for them to do that. So we got engaged with them. And what we did is essentially put on an Iron Chef experience. We brought in 8 different super creative people, like a great bartender and an amazing chef and a chocolatier and these different food people. And we curated all of these ingredients from all around the world. Okay? We brought them into this big kitchen like this, okay? And we made an insane mess. Okay? Like each one had their own stations, and we had people documenting as these creative people are like blending and trying to make beverages. People are documenting. Okay, 2 lychee fruits and like a half bucket of chocolate, like whatever was going in. Right? And when we were done, we had 34 drinks with recipes. Okay? That then got distilled down very rapidly into 6 beverages that were prototyped on equipment at Coca-Cola. The entire duration for Coke was about 3 months, right, to pull this off. My partner was at Coca-Cola where one of the board members was walking by and the door was open. He was like, "Hey, what's that?" And everyone's like, "Oh my God, don't look in here." You know? He's like, "Hey, can I try that?" And my buddy is like, "Holy crap." He's like, "Sure." Right? And there's the president of the division, right? And there's the head of all in R&D, and everyone is just panic-stricken internally. Like, what is going to happen? And this guy takes a sip of one, okay? Takes a sip of another, total like stone face. And my partner's like, "Oh my God, like we're getting killed. This is it. It's all over. We're done for." Takes a sip of the 3rd one. He steps back. He's like, "Those are awesome." And then, of course, I'm the president of it. He's like, "Yeah, we're doing great." Everyone's like really enthusiastic. And he asked my friend, like, "How did we do this? How did we come up with these 6 amazing beverages?" And when he was told the story I just gave you, he said, "If we did it our way, it would have taken us 2 years. We would have had one of these, and none of them would have been as good as any of these 6 that are on the table." That's the power of play, of making a mess, of setting up a powerful play experience for a very strategic business need, and we delivered results with speed and quality that their process and their system could never accommodate, couldn't be done. So, just a story to try to illuminate the possibility of bringing play into work and what it can do. Please ask me a question or 2, or we can just hit it right on the nail, and you can walk out and go, "That guy just nailed it."
We actually have to stop because
All right.
there's a limited time window for everybody to
Perfect.
get to the next class. So let's give a round of applause.
If anyone wants to grab me, I'm happy to talk.